What's up, guys? Today I want to break down this Syracuse, Maryland game from last year, which showed an amazing battle between Luke Weirman and Mason Cohn. I think there is a lot to be learned from this game, but today I want to focus mostly on foot mechanics. The reason for this is I get a lot of questions about how to move your feet during the face-off, and I think ideally you would win every face-off so cleanly that you drive into the ball and pop it forward, all without your feet moving from their original position. However, in the real world, when you are going up against opponents who match your hand speed or who throw really great shovel counters, I think stationary feet will not do the trick. Both Luke and Mason were throwing exceptionally quick and strong shovel counters in this game, which really made the traditional pinch and pop exit difficult. Both to throw the shovel counter and to find a way to exit against it, both players had to be constantly moving their feet. So let's dive into the game. Okay, so here's one of the face-offs early on, and you can see here Luke Weirman's going to win a pretty clean clamp right there. And his right foot, back that up for a second, it stays in line with his right hand for the most part, which is where he first positioned it before the whistle. It moves back a little bit, which isn't super ideal. However, the thing I want to focus on here mostly is that it does not drive to the right at all. It stays in line with his right hand, as I said before. And from there, he goes to plan off of that right foot and drag the ball out for a forward exit. At that time, though, Mason Cohn does a really good job of coming across with his hands and his feet to try to stop Luke's hands from bringing the ball out. And because most of Luke's body is to the right of the ball, Mason Cohn is able to kind of get him extended a little bit as he prevents his hands from coming out for that forward exit. And the ball just pops out and dribbles to Luke's right. And because the stick head is to the right of Luke's body, as Mason Cohn grabs it and tries to pull on it for the shovel counter, Luke ends up falling forward a little bit. And again, as I said, that ball stays to the right of Luke's body. So as the game went on, you can see there were many more opportunities for forward exits, but I think both guys exemplified an adjustment that you can make, especially when someone is throwing a really, really great shovel counter and it's really hard to pop the ball out forward against them. I think it's really important to make sure that you're driving into the ball. And a lot of times, what's going to end up happening is your right foot is going to pop out to the right just a little bit. And then you drive off of that right foot to get the ball out forward. And I think the advantage that this gives you is if the other guy throws a shovel as you're pulling it out, because you're a little bit more stable and you have some of your center of gravity over the ball, you're able to continue to fight for that ball and it doesn't get left to the right of your body. So let's take a look at that now. This is one of the first examples of this. So here, Mason Cohn, you see, gets in very quickly on a very nice clamp. And that right foot, back that up for a second. That right foot hops out ever so slightly to the right. And it now you can see Mason Cohn's center of gravity is a little bit more over the ball than Luke's was in the first clip that we showed. So again, Luke does an amazing job of coming to the right, getting into that shovel very quickly. So as Mason tries to pull it out, he's meeting some resistance with Luke's hands. But because he's in a little bit more powerful position, driving off of that right foot, with his center of gravity more over the ball, he's able to fight through Luke's stick and his counter just a little bit more. And although this doesn't end up as a clean win for Mason, it definitely exemplifies the advantage that he has in fighting through that shovel counter. So this is another one here. where Mason has a pretty nice clamp. Okay. And you can see he's driving off of that left foot into the ball. Okay. And he has great head position. His body weight generally is driving into and over the ball down the line. Okay. And just naturally, again, with that explosion that he has when he's clamping into the ball, his right foot is going to hop just a little bit to the right. And again, Luke does a great job of getting his stick out as quickly as he possibly can. But because of that little hop, Mason has his center of gravity over the ball. And again, he's in a powerful position to try and fight through the counter. And again, it doesn't end up super clean. However, because of his body positioning, Mason Cone is still giving him a chance at this ball, as opposed to if he kept his feet where they are right now, potentially Luke could knock the ball out of Mason's stick head as he's trying to drag it out, and it would leave the ball in a much more advantageous spot for Luke. So by coming over the ball, Mason Cone is putting himself in a better position to fight against this counter and still maintain possession. So here, Luke Weirman is going to get a really nice clean clamp. He's going to drive into and over the ball. And again, his right foot is going to pop out ever so slightly to the right. And now you can see, as opposed to the first video, now he has his center of gravity a little bit over the ball, a little bit more over the ball as he's trying to drag this out. So Mason Cone, he comes in with a pretty hard shovel counter. But again, Luke Weirman is in a little bit more powerful position here to fight through this. And it doesn't end up exactly in his favor, but he's able to drag the ball through that shovel counter. And again, this may not be the exact move that you would want to do in this situation when someone has a super, super strong shovel. Potentially, he could have adjusted and went to a different exit. But the point is, he put himself in a better spot to win this ball because of his foot placement. And again, right foot pops out ever so slightly to the right. And he quickly plants off of it and gets it out before Mason's able to really get his hands across to get a good shovel counter. And with that nice hard plant, Luke's able to really drive this ball out fast and strong into that forward exit. So one more time, you can see his left leg on the whistle. Okay, it's not this huge extension of his leg, but you can tell he's driving off of that foot and bringing all of his weight and power again down the line, over and into the ball. And that causes his right foot to pop out just a little bit, and then he drives off of that right foot to bring it out forward. I think on this example, the foot doesn't pop out to the right quite as much. This kind of goes back to his first clip where he's still got his hands in the ball to the right of his body. Okay. But I think he gets it out really, really quickly. Okay. Mason Cohen's head is down, and I think Mason's shovel counter just isn't quite as effective here. And so I think this here is an example of where I maybe would have liked to see Luke kind of power off of that left foot just a little bit more, get a little bit better body positioning over that ball as he's pulling it out. But this is kind of just goes to show you that, sometimes you're gonna get this forward exit just by virtue of being super quick and getting a super clean clamp. And it's also going to be dependent on how well the other guy uses his shovel counter against you. And so this is an example where, Luke Weirman, he's able to get it out really before that shovel gets to him. And again, I think Mason, he did a pretty good job here on getting his body across on the counter. But you can see again, head kind of comes out all the way to the left here, and he's not really able to get fully across to the right like he would like to. So, had he been able to, it may not have worked out quite as well for Luke Weirman on this one. So, because this was such a back and forth battle with amazing counters, I think both guys in this game did a really good job of adjusting and getting ready to throw or to use different exits at different times. And I think once it kind of became apparent that both of the players were going to be really good at their shovel counters, I think they did a good job of using and getting ready for some defensive exits from time to time. And in order to do that, they did a really great job of driving off of their left foot and getting their feet over to the right and getting their center of gravity directly over the ball so that they could have a nice secure clamp on the ball. They could then rotate their body into the position they needed to get a clean defensive exit. And so this is just one example here where Mason Cone, you can tell he's probably not thinking forward exit on this one. He's kind of mixing it up. And again, this is a little bit into the game now, so they've shown that they're really good at their counters, and so Mason is probably thinking of mixing it up here, going defensively and getting a secure possession. And so he drives off of that left foot, brings both his feet to the right, and he's going to put his center of gravity over that ball, okay, and kind of shield the ball from Luke Weirman. And then he very powerfully drives it out, just like he would on the forward exit, but drives it across, now planting off of that right foot and bringing it out for a nice defensive pinch pop. So here's another clamp here that Mason Cone wins. He's going to drive off of that left foot, and you're going to immediately see his right foot start to come down the line because, again, he's driving into and over the ball down the line. So all of his momentum's going to be coming this way. His feet very quickly transition into that same spot as before, where he's going to kind of be straddling the ball with his center of gravity, clamping down on it, and then he's going to very powerfully drive the ball out. So here's one more here. Luke Weirman's going to win this one, gets that nice secure clamp, and then immediately feet drive over to the right. And even though Mason Cone's in here on a pretty nice shovel counter, pretty powerful, because Luke gets his weight, his center of gravity over the ball, he's able to hold on to that. Now, again, here it looks like Luke has a really nice clean clamp and potentially could have thrown this out forward. Okay. But at this point in the game, like I said before, when someone's been throwing really, really hard and effective shovel counters against you and been kind of shutting off that fast break, you're probably going to start mixing up your tactics a little bit and you're going to drive into this ball and bring your feet to the right a little bit more in anticipation of that, and then go for something a little bit more defensive potentially. Also go over foot movement when you're in a 50-50 battle because there were a number of those in this game. And sometimes over rotating put the players in a precarious position in this game. Whereas when they kept their momentum driving into and over the ball, that really helped them to secure the clamp and to be able to win possession. So here's one look at this. So they both come in with a nice clamp, meet in a 50-50 battle. And you can see both players here are driving, they're rotating to the left. And what that does is it opens up this fast break lane for Luke Weirman here as Mason Cone rotates away and opens up that lane towards his own goal. And as Mason's rotating, he's essentially you can see he's taking pressure off of the ball and his head rotates back towards himself, which allows Luke Weirman to dig in with that clamp and to dig the ball out. Here's another look here. They both they get into a nice 50. Now on this one, you can see Mason kind of digs in and he keeps driving over the ball. Whereas Luke, he's going to really come hard on that rotation out to the left. But this time, you can see he kind of loses positioning for this clamp because his stick head starts to pop back a little bit as he rotates to the left. But you can see Mason Cone maintains firm pressure with that over that right hand and into the ball, and that allows him to secure the clamp as Luke's head slides off of the ball. And then now Mason, he has a clear shot for an exit. So one more time. You can see Mason, all of his momentum, right, is driving into and over the ball, keeping that pressure into that right hand, which allows him to secure that clamp. And then he goes out for the exit. And so this is one clip that the last clip that I'll show, and I think it is a good kind of example of what we've been talking about throughout this whole video. But then I also hope that it clarifies some questions that I get about how much should I drive to the right on a normal face off, and should I move my feet at all? And I think the answer is kind of dependent on the situation. Because again, as I said in the beginning, if you win a very nice clean clamp and you can get it in and out, you need very minimal, if any, foot movement. But when you're meeting a lot of resistance and you need to drive into the ball, generally you're going to want your feet to be moving to the right. And when I work with people, I generally tell them, even if they're doing face-offs on their own and they're not going up against anyone and they're just timing it off of the whistle, it's my belief that it's okay for your feet to come even just a little bit over to the right. Because what that tells me is you're in the habit of, on every face-off, of driving into the ball. Because when you aren't in that habit and you keep your body to the left and you don't drive in very hard to the ball, it can make you more susceptible to the shovel counter if someone's very quick to it, like I said. Um, and B, if you end up getting in a 50-50, you are not in a great position then to keep fighting into the ball and to dig that 50 out. So again, it might put you at a slight disadvantage if it takes you a second, less than a second to get that right foot over a little bit planted so that you can get the ball out. And so if you're someone who's winning the clamp super clean and the other guy's not throwing super quick counters, then yeah, I mean, you probably want to cut down on any foot movement. You just want to get the ball in and out. But if you're going up against a guy who's very talented, he's throwing a lot of moves at you and he's giving you a hard time on the forward exit. I think that, and especially if you're in 50-50s with him, you're having trouble with his hand speed. I think there's a lot of benefit to ensuring that you're driving into the ball and getting in a good position to secure that clamp no matter what counter he throws at you. And so we'll just take a look at this real quick. I know that this video isn't about hand movement, but I'll just highlight real quick. You can see Mason Cone here. He's going to win this clamp clean, and he has, I think, pretty great hand positioning here. Even to start, you can see he has nice loose hands. On some of the videos before, you could see his right hand. You can tell he's not squeezing the stick super hard. And in this clip here, you can see his left hand again, nice loose grip. He has a vertical wrist, so he doesn't have it bent like some people do. And Luke Weirman's also doing a really great job with that. But you can see right off the whistle, he's gonna drive with that right hand into the ball, and he's gonna bring the ball right towards the throat. And also his left hand, he's punching out a little bit, okay? And he's gonna be twisting the stick a bit with that left hand. So he's driving into the ball, but also turning the head down for a nice secure clamp. And he's engaging that left foot. You can see that pretty clearly here. He's engaging that left foot, driving off of it, and his momentum is going into the ball. Now he gets kind of caught in this 50-50 a little bit, but he continues to drive, 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 and bring his head, keep it over the ball, and he's bringing his center of gravity over the ball. I think ideally, I would have liked to see him try and keep a little bit better head positioning, such that his head would be maybe underneath Luke's, okay, so that he wins that area over the ball and pushes Luke back over it or off of it, sorry. I think Luke is getting a little bit more of an advantage in terms of head positioning there, okay? But overall, I think Mason does a really good job of driving into and over the ball, getting his feet across to the right, and he ultimately does secure the clamp there. And here's one last clip I want to show. This is kind of a fun one, but I think it really shows the benefit of driving your feet over to the right, getting good positioning over the ball. So, uh, I tell people when someone's countering you hard and you're driving your feet over to the right, maybe loading up for a defensive exit, you kind of get in this position where your feet are straddling the ball. You have your center of gravity by your hips over the ball, and you're really driving hard into that right hand. And you're in a position where it kind of looks like you're using a plunger in a toilet. And so Mason does a really good job here after he gets the clamp of doing exactly that. Okay. And because he's in a stable position with a solid clamp, and he's really pushing that down into the ground, when Luke comes across to the right and tries to throw a counter, Mason's able to remain stable and he's able to just push the ball through Luke's legs here. So this is definitely something that's available to you, especially if someone tries to throw a fish hook and you're in a stable position, you can just go with that momentum. And I think here Luke he's using a shovel, I'm pretty sure, but Luke he's kind of pulls Mason's hands towards himself. And so Mason just goes with that and he just throws the ball through Luke's legs. So that's all I have for you guys today on this video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.